Gerald.
Hey, buddy.
Our biggest news topic this week. It's been talked to death by this point because this was very early. This happened like the next day after our last recording. Donald Trump, of course, came out and said, blamed these shootings on the grisly and gruesome video games that our kids play, or whatever he said. So we're back here.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I have a lot of complicated thoughts on this.
Same. And here's the thing. As we said earlier, we're not going to get political on this podcast.
Mhm.
That's not our place. We're here to distract you from that.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't like politics seeping into our video game.
No. By God, just let me press some buttons. But it's just... It's so odd to me that we're back to this point. Like you said, we've had these battles.
Mhm.
We've had studies done.
This was a thesis that happened like in the 90s. It was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
They took this thesis and did a ton of studies. At best, the closest they could say was that it was indeterminate if it had an effect on someone's violence or not playing violent video games. Most studies said no, there is zero correlation.
And here's the thing. This is the way I've always seen it. If someone does have violent tendencies, either A, it's going to manifest if they play games or not. That's just unrelated information. Or B, this might be a way for them to be able to act that out without doing anything in real life.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, some studies have even said that it alleviates violent tendencies.
So, blaming it on that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But yet again, I'm an old man. Let's go ahead and get that out there. I lived through the 90s.
Yeah.
I was there for the battles against Night Shift and against Lethal Enforcers and against Mortal Kombat.
You mean Night Moves?
No.
What's it called? It's not Night Shift.
That was Night Shift.
Night Shift is a Ron Howard movie.
And Night Moves is a Bob Seger song.
What is it? Night Trap.
Night Trap.
I knew it wasn't Night Moves, but I couldn't think of the title either.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was cognizant of those things. I was a bit younger than you, but I was cognizant of those things because my uncle was big into Doom, which I'm not going to talk about Doom again, but that was definitely a piece of that controversy as well, especially after Columbine, because those dudes were way into that game. But I think that came out like shortly after those initial hearings, so it wasn't talked about until Columbine later.
Right.
But yeah, so we've been over this. We've done this. I think personally, I think that the violence in our games comes from a similar place in our culture as violence being perpetrated.
I disagree.
I don't mean like every bit of violence. I do mean like our tendency to really gravitate towards that. I think there is a violence in American culture.
There is. But there's also a huge StarCraft scene in Korea. There's violent video games being played across the globe.
Yeah.
So to say that that's a product of America or that it only affects America, either way,
no, I wouldn't
ridiculous.
say that. Yeah.
So, like I said, I disagree. Not to stomp on what you're trying to say.
No, I'm listening.
But if
I don't have hard and fast thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, there's violent video games coming out of every nation.
And
there's violent video games being played in every nation.
I mean, violence is a standard part of humanity. It's just something we cope with. I think we cope with it a lot worse in America on several different levels, but I don't think that means... because like, oh my God, Japanese movies, there's so much violence in some Japanese movies, and it doesn't translate elsewhere. So yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, I'm not here to sit here and tell you how to stop gun violence in America. That's not my place.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what won't do that. Taking away video games.
Yeah. Honestly, I said we can't get too we don't want to get too political here, but
Right.
I'm not a take everybody's guns away,
Yeah.
take everybody's guns away liberal. I'm pro gun. I own a gun, um, but but there is a conversation to be had about gun control.
Mhm.
That's fine. That's a fine conversation. We might not all see eye to eye on it, but we don't even really have that conversation
Mm-mm.
without just shouting at each other and wanting to rip each other's throats out over different opinions.
But that's political discourse in America now.
Yeah.
It's just
Um,
both sides yelling until one of them thinks they're yelling the loudest.
yeah. So, but to deflect to video games when we've done this song and dance,
And here's the thing. I'm gonna go ahead and say this: the people who deflect to video games are just that generation that's out of reach of having grown up with video games.
mhm,
So whenever you see people in politics that are like, "No, it's not video games," that's because they've grown up with video games. They've performed a fatality and never thought, "Man, I should go rip someone's head off,"
yeah,
and hopefully their spine will be attached.
yeah. Again, like I'm a kid that beat Doom when I was 6.
Yeah,
Like that at the time, that was as violent as shit got, and that
hmm
was pretty damn violent. Never even like tr- translated that into a thought of violence against other people. When I was a kid, I didn't even want to punch people.
the only thing that
That
made
changed
me
later,
want
but
to punch people when I was a kid was pro wrestling, but that's a different
yeah.
story. I didn't do it from video games. I just wanted to be the Undertaker.
Yeah, we just thought it was fun. And maybe we hurt ourselves on some trampolines. Um, no, yeah, it's a mess. Needless to say, our wide opinion is that this is bullshit. It is a distraction from having a gun control conversation. Because of a lot of the places where money goes, a lot of where it comes from and where it goes. The NRA is a big. But I mean, this is my problem. Not to get too political, but uh,
I'm trying to,
this isn't taking a stance one way or the other. Again, like
yeah.
I am pro gun ownership, uh, but the NRA has become more of a lobbying arm, and they don't even want it discussed.
Mhm.
They don't even want to discuss because they are a lobbying arm for the gun manufacturers. They're not a lobbying arm for gun owners like you and me. Um, I don't know if you own a gun at this point. That's not really part of the conversation, but I know you have at some point. But they're not. They don't represent us.
Mhm.
They represent people that make money off of it, and they want to distract from that conversation any way they can. And I think just Trump bringing up video games and playing to his base who are, like you said, out of reach of having really played video
Mhm.
games. Those are the people that vote. If you
Mhm.
look at like America's voting demographics, it's not a large percentage of younger voters. It's folks that haven't really that are old enough to not really be uh, in the know about what video games even really are.
I mean, this was the same conversation that we've had a thousand times.
Mhm.
And back in the day, if you look at D&D, used to be for Satan worshippers.
Mhm.
Um, rock music summoned the devil. Rap music was leading to gang violence.
Mhm.
It's the same conversation that we're always having, and it's always from people who don't understand the subject they're talking about. And that's the only thing that really bothers me. Because we've gotten to the point now where no one can point at, oh, it's violent films, because the same person who said that it was video games that have done this has already come out and said that Pulp Fiction is one of his favorite movies of all time. So, of course, you can't point to
Who said
film
that?
Donald Trump. So you can't point to film violence because you like violent films.
Yeah.
So you point at the thing that you don't partake in, be it video games, rap music, metal music, whatever it is, and say that's the problem with America instead of taking a deeper look. But I don't want to get political.
But and I do want to say that anybody that thinks that this is going to result in any sort of regulations on the gaming industry, it's not going to happen. First of all, like I said, it's just a distraction. Second of all, Robert Trump, Donald's brother, sits on the ZeniMax the ZeniMax board of directors.
ZeniMax. Do they make any violent video games?
Let me think about that. Let's see. Who do they own? Bethesda?
Yeah.
Fallout?
No.
No, not that violent.
Mm-mm.
The Elder Scrolls games where you can just slaughter everyone in a whole town.
I mean,
There's not a lot of blood, but you can.
Actually, the bloody mess perk would be far more violent than
that. They own id.
There's no violence in id games, though.
No, not a bunch of war games and
no violence there.
Demon slaying. Yeah.
What about Commander Keen, though? There you go.
There you go.
Actually, you know what? Wolfenstein.
Yeah. What?
I mean, that
was the war game I was referring to. Yeah, they make Wolfenstein and Doom. Wolfenstein, Doom, Fallout, Elder Scrolls. All of those are under the watchful eye of ZeniMax there with Robert Trump as a board member. You're not going to see any regulation on that. I'd say those are among the most violent video games being put out. Really, I'm sure there's a lot grosser things out there, whatever, but those are among some of the most violent video games being put out. Those are the exact kind of things that would be regulated. It's not happening. Now, we are getting stupid responses from companies like Walmart where they're like, "Oh, we're going to temporarily take down the advertisements for violent games because of this thing that he said."
But we're still going to sell the guns.
But we're still going to sell, we're still going to sell guns. We're still going to sell the games.
Yeah.
We're just not going to have the advertisements up for it because it's in poor taste or whatever, despite the fact that neither of these shooters said anything about video games. I'm sure they played video games. Who the fuck doesn't?
Yeah. I don't know. Let's close this topic.
Yeah, we're done.
Sorry. I'm trying to keep it from just becoming that.
Yeah. Hey nerds, be sure to subscribe to Mushbrains, the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. You can also find us on Facebook.com/Mushbrains, the podcast. We're on Twitter @MushbrainsPod. You can email us with your thoughts and your feedback, mushbrainspodcast@gmail.com. You can also comment down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down and tell us why we're assholes. You should also hit that subscribe button for more podcast clips like this, as well as brand new video content every week. We'll see you in the next one.